Welcome into Minnesota Vikings Now. I am Tom Downey, here to break down all of the roster moves, the cuts, the releases, and the 2 trades Minnesota made today as part of Roster Cutdown Day. If you are excited about this new-look Vikings roster with some major changes made, hit that big red button and subscribe for more free Vikings videos year-round. Let's break down the first 2 trades, then we'll get into all the cuts and an overview of the Vikings roster right now. Ross Blacklock has been acquired by the Minnesota Vikings on a pretty cheap deal. The former second-round pick out of TCU, he comes to Minnesota from the Houston Texans. The Vikings give up a 6th-round pick in this upcoming NFL draft. The Texans then give up Blacklock and a 7th. So you're talking about moving down from probably a mid to late 6th-round pick into the early 7th, and you get a player who could start for you? Yeah, I love that trade for Minnesota. Blacklock has been unquestionably so a disappointment in Houston, although I would like to point out I don't think he was ever used that well. I have questions about his scheme fit. I think he's best as a pure 3 technique, so maybe a situational rusher than like a true 5 technique defensive end. There have been moments of flash. There's upside. Blacklock has never put it all together, unfortunately. But it'd be pretty cool if he could do so in Minnesota. But you're talking next to nothing given up by the Vikings to acquire Blacklock. I'm totally on board with that one. Now, as part of that move, they released Armon Watts. More on him in a little bit. But they were not done making trades. They also sent out Jesse Davis, who, as you probably recall, they signed this offseason. You flip him for a 2025 7th-round pick. Is that a lot? No. It is not a lot to get back, but that's someone they could have cut. I think they were going to cut, barring the Steelers coming through with a trade. You get a future 7th for a guy that wasn't going to start for you, was only going to be depth. Between the Jesse Davis and Armon Watts moves, they saved about $4 million in salary cap space, which I think is a big deal for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and his money/analytical background. All the cuts, including some big names who got dumped by Minnesota, coming up here in a minute. But first, I want you guys to grade the trades made by Minnesota. A 7th and Ross Blacklock in exchange for a 6th that the Vikings gave up, and then getting a future 7th for Jesse Davis. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know how you feel about all the trades in the comment section. We'll make this the pinned comment on today's video, so if an ad break just so happens to come here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in your A, B, C, D, or F. Let's run then through all the roster cuts made today. Kellen Mond, out of here. Mike Zimmer gets so much. Oh, wait. Mike's gone? Oh, so Mond just sucks. Got it. Tristan Jackson, maybe he's a practice squad guy. Come on, he cut a 3rd-round pick after a year? That's a bad sign. Tristan Jackson, prime practice squad candidate. Jalen Twyman released. Wyatt Davis, as we'd expected from the beginning with the regime change. Nobody wanted him. That 2021 draft class, by the way. That's bad. You whiff on Kellen Mond. You whiff on Wyatt Davis. You miss on Chaz Surratt. More on him in a little bit. At least Christian Darrisaw looks pretty good. Eeks. Sean Mannion also released by the Minnesota Vikings as they dump both of their quarterbacks beyond Nick Mullins. It's interesting there. Myron Mitchell's cut. Nick Muse, the tight end, prime practice squad candidate. Perry Nickerson, Dan Chisnia. Zach Davidson also released. So a couple recent, speaking of that draft class, oof. That's bad, man. 2 tight ends, recent draft picks released by the Vikings, Nick Muse and Zach Davidson there. The big surprise was Armon Watts. The assumed starter on the defensive line has been cut. We'll see if someone picks him up or if he's a practice squad option. Josh Skoll, I love the name, but he didn't work out that well. He's UDFA, whatever. Chad Surratt cut as well, or Surratt, excuse me. Again, you spent a 3rd-round pick on the guy, and he can't even make your roster. That's a pretty big disappointment as far as I'm concerned. Speaking of draft picks, Janarius Robinson, at the end of today's video, by the way, I'm going to go through that entire 2021 draft class and just go over how bad it was because it was I know it's a new regime. Holy crap, did they miss pretty badly there. Zach McLeod, the UDFA, also cut. Nate Hairston, backup corner. Timon Paris, he's been released. Ty Smith had been cut, brought back, and cut to get to the preseason. Bryant Kobach released, and TJ Smith cut as well. The final 5 then, Mike Brown and Miles Dorn. Hopefully Mike Brown makes practice squad. That's my guy. Blake Lynch at linebacker. William Kwenku also cut. And Kyle Hinton, backup guard, also out of here. So which roster cut of the ones made so far surprised you guys the most? Was it Kellen Mond? Was it Chaz Surratt? Was it Wyatt Davis? A lot of routes you can go. I think it's Armin Watson, but that's just my opinion. Sound off in the comments section which roster cut shocked you guys the most. Let's go position by position then at the Vikings when it comes to the quarterback room and the entire roster, with QBs leading the way. Kirk Cousins is quarterback 1. Nick Mullins is QB 2. Clearly, Kevin O'Connell didn't like what he saw from Sean Mannion, didn't like what he saw from Kellen Mond. Maybe one or both ends up back on the practice squad, but it is Cousins and Mullins at QB for Minnesota. Still no long-term answer. It ain't Kellen Mond. So were you shocked by the release of Mond and Mannion? The M stands for mediocre. Y for yes, N for no. Were you surprised by those moves? Sound off for me right now in the comments section. Let's move then to running back. Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, after all those trade rumors of, are they going to cut him? Are they not going to cut him? Blah, blah, blah. Both those guys are still here. Kenny Nwangu also still here. Ty Chandler, along with fullback C.J. Ham. And what is a bit of a surprise to me, at least, and maybe there's change coming, the Vikings only carry 5 receivers. That's it. I was a little surprised they went so light on that standpoint. Jefferson, Thielen, KJ Osborne, Amir Smith-Marset, and Jalen Naylor, the only receivers to make the roster. We'll see if there's another move coming at some point in the near future, but that's where they sit right now. Speaking of Justin Jefferson, his jersey is on sale at chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Got some awesome products. The Justin Jefferson one, of course, leads the way. There's maybe on this number of fingers on my hand better receivers than Jefferson in the NFL, and he ain't 5, and I don't think he's 4. There's a real argument for him to be number 1 in the NFL. Get the jersey of the best Vikings player on the roster. That's Justin Jefferson at chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. On to the tight end room now. Irv Smith, Johnny Munt, Ben Ellefson. That is it. About as thin as it is. Going so thin, though, I believe, a very clear sign of how they feel about Irv Smith being good to go in time for week 1. Christian Darrisaw, Ezra Cleveland, everyone's favorite offensive lineman, Garrett Bradbury. He's back at center. Ed Ingram, Brian O'Neill, those should be your starters. And some passable depth on the offensive line with Veridian Lowe, Blake Brandel, Ali Udo, Chris Reed, Austin Schlottman all hanging out there. Defensive side coming up here in a second, but you guys have a good feel for the overall roster, the spots that matters in the end. So grade the Vikings 2022 roster for me. Madden style 1 to 100. It's not a 1. It's not 100, but it's also closer to the 100 side. Sound off for me in the comment section. Let's look at the defensive line now, interior style. Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips, Ross Blacklock, the new addition. They're all there. Jonathan Bullard makes the team. James Lynch makes the team. Ezi Otomewo, he's there as well. Would be a nice 5-10, I think, long-term. He just needs some time. I like the way the Vikings defense is built this year. Zadarius Smith, Daniil Hunter, your top 2 edges. Flip the order if you want, whatever. DJ Wonham, Luigi Villain, the UDFA, he makes the roster, as does Patrick Jones. Of the 4 third-round picks in 2021, Jones is the only one still on the Vikings roster. That's a pretty troubling sign from that standpoint. 4 off-ball linebackers. It's a 3-4 scheme. You need 2 at a time. That makes sense. Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, Brian Asamoah, and Troy Dye are the 4 on the roster from that standpoint. And as expected, the 6 corners we mostly thought. Patrick Peterson, Cameron Dantzler, Chandon Sullivan, Andrew Booth, the rookie from Clemson, Caleb Evans, and Chris Boyd all make it. And also no real surprises at safety. Again, that's not Armin Watts. That was only shocking move along the defensive side. Maybe Chaz Surratt, but whatever. Harrison Smith, Lewis Seen, Josh Metellus, and Cam Bynum make it. And then it's the 3 specialists. Again, no real surprises here. Andrew DePola, Ryan Wright, and Greg Joseph make the team as your long snapper, punter, and kicker, respectively. Nothing too shocking as it relates from that standpoint. So if you haven't already, please do me a big favor and make sure you are subscribed. Hit that big red button. Don't miss out on anything here on Minnesota Vikings. Now, as promised, I'm just going to run through that 2021 draft class. Producer Patrick's here. He's our Vikings fan. Christian Darrisaw. Cool. Kellen Mond, bust. Chaz Surratt, bust. Wyatt Davis, cut. Patrick Jones, on the team but not going to start. Kenny Nwangu, actually a really good pick. Cam Bynum, I like him. Janarius Robinson, cut. Amir Smith-Marset, on the team. Zach Davidson, cut. Jalen Twyman, cut. The Vikings had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players in that draft class. There are 5 of them left after a year. A colossal draft that I think in the end really did spell the end of the Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer era. Hopefully things are better moving forward. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that big red button.